Batwoman, issues 2, 3, and 4. To be honest, even though it's very clearly part of a 6 issue arc, you could divide issue 1 and 2 into its own story, and issue 3 and 4 into a completely different story once the twins are involved. The story itself seems to be really good. I haven't been keeping up with Batwoman, even though I did like the first issue. And I also liked the teaser issue from Detective Comics. I really love the original Batwoman run from a few years ago. Not the original, obviously. But I meant the Elegy and whatever the other one was. And then I liked the start of the New 52 run up until those two writers were taken off. That was honestly one of the best comic books I've ever read. The horror comic aspect was very interesting, although once the writers left, I thought the horror comic aspect overtook the character aspect, which was a shame. And unfortunately, Batwoman became a horrible comic toward the end of the New 52, while at the beginning it was probably one of the best comics of the New 52. But that's neither here nor there. Now we have a whole new writer and a whole new arc. We have Bennett, who her stuff can be hit and miss. Sometimes it's above wonderful, above great, and sometimes it's very mediocre. This is neither. This is the first time I've ever seen her in the center. I'll admit I've never read anything of hers that's terrible, and this is not terrible, but this is not exactly reaching great. There are some aspects of this story that work wonderfully, but there are some aspects of the story that strike heavily against what Tinian has set up in the Detective Comics run. Now, I don't like the fact, and this is just my biggest issue with these issues, that everybody knows that Kate Kane is Batwoman. It makes no sense to me. I think it's a bad story choice. I think it's a horrible idea. I think she has a secret identity for a reason, and that identity should be kept secret. That being said, she's not Batman. Fine. But if you can figure out that Batman's cousin is Batwoman, I'm pretty sure you can make a next very easily to figure out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Now, that being said, another problem with the story, and this has been a problem from Tinian going back to the beginning of Detective, is that everybody describes Kate Kane as super beautiful, super whatever. And as a guy who likes redheads and pale women, I gotta say, I don't see it. She doesn't strike me as a character who's the most beautiful woman in the room. And they keep on presenting her as if she's some kind of sex pot. And I don't think she is. I think this is a character that specifically is against that way of thinking of women. This is a woman who is utilitarian first, who is a survival and a pragmatic person first, well before she's super sexualized. Yes, she has sexual relations. Yes, a key part of her story in her original modern take is based on her sexuality. But I think both society and comic books and this character has grown beyond that. I think, yes, that's still an important aspect of her character, but I don't think her sexiness is important to the character, and her sensuality is not something that even the writers explore in the character. So I don't see that as a necessary aspect. Also, I think it's kind of weird that every single character here has a feminine aspect. That's been kind of strange to me. I get it, but it just seems weird. I like the fact that her Alfred is Julia. I think that's a cool trick. I think that's an excellent setup. I don't think Snyder thought that up when he introduced Julia, but I think that's a great thing. I really like her villains, but it reminds me of some other comics that I've read that have had this same kind of duality and kind of all-knowing villain going on. It reminds me a lot of the Gail Simone Batgirl run with a character that I've honestly forgotten, but it was really important to the story that somehow knew everything about Barbara Gordon toward the end of the New 52 run. And it also reminds me a little bit of All New Wolverine, where there's that female character who's basically X-23's Sabretooth. So I do think those little tropes and those little tricks are a little wasted here when Batwoman already has a great history that has been established pre New 52 and in the New 52. So while I really like Rebirth and I do like Batwoman, and while I'm going to continue to get Batwoman, I think I'm going to continue to run into the same problem, which is I'm not going to have the urge to read her issues right off the bat. It's not going to be a top of the pile book for me. But that's not a problem because this book I think is going to read wonderfully in trade. And this might become a trade weight for me where I'll just pick up the trade every single time it comes out and keep that trade on my read pile all the time because Bennett is great. Batwoman as a character is interesting. And this seems to be on the right path. Anyway, for me, I want to give this a 4 really bad, but it's a 3 out of 5. Anyway, thanks for listening.